195 new cases of COVID-19 recorded in Nigeria. The Center for Disease Control resolves to test 2 million persons within 3 months.
In order to test 2 million people in 3 months across the country, we need to test about 50,000 per state.
Senate reconvenes after 6 weeks to approve 850 billion naira new external borrowing plan of the federal government.
Under the recommendations of scientists and health experts. We will continue in our efforts in the interest of our good health.
House of Reps bill seeks more powers for the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC.
What this bill seeks to do is to empower the NCDC in several areas, in matters of quarantine and the administration of public health.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss COVID-19 reaching out to the vulnerable.
Now, since the COVID-19 lockdown came into effect over a month ago, many Nigerians who earn their living on a daily basis say it's been a struggle to survive. And just yesterday afternoon, there was a call that came through on the NTA News 24 hotline. The caller was from somewhere in the east, asking to let state government know that things are not easy for the masses during this lockdown period.
Absolutely. These are difficult times indeed, Kingsley, particularly as more than 80% of Nigerians work in the informal sector. Research shows that in Lagos alone, 65% of the population fall under the category of street traders, taxi drivers, market women, artisans, food vendors, hairdressers, and others. They often do not have any savings for emergencies or a basic social safety net.
Certainly, and it is with that in mind that the federal government initiated several palliative measures to mitigate the economic impact of the lockdown on Nigerians, particularly on the most vulnerable. President Muhammadu Buhari announced the palliative measures such as food distribution, cash transfers, as well as loan repayment waivers in order to ease the pains of the policies arising from the lockdown.
And the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Social Development and Disaster Management has kicked off the implementation of these palliatives by paying out the cash as directed by Mr. President to families registered in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households on April 1st. The government said each family on the register, which will be expanded from 2.6 to 3.6 million, will receive the monthly cash payments for 4 months.
And for the past 3 weeks, a number of state governments have also been on the news, receiving truckloads of food items which they have been distributing to the less privileged in their states as part of the measures to cushion the effect of the current situation.
Now, the FCT has also started a distribution of food relief items meant for 600,000 vulnerable households across the 6 area councils of the territory to help them cushion the effect of the ongoing lockdown. And similarly, the Nigerian Air Force has been distributing relief food items to the vulnerable in host communities of the 6 commands in the country.
And also playing their brothers keepers, several philanthropic groups and individuals such as NGOs, faith-based organizations, Nollywood stars and individuals, as I said, have been giving out food items and other essential commodities across the country. Now, how far can these measures go considering the current number of vulnerable people in the country? And how sufficient in any case are these efforts towards mitigating the immense needs on the ground? We shall, of course, be taking a look at some of these issues and others arising with regard to coping in these fairly challenging times with our guests on the program. My name is Kingsley Osadola, and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
And I am Kieran Umaya, also saying welcome to this midweek edition of Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. You're also going to be having the complimentary segments as usual, and they will include newspaper review, business news, and others. For now, let's join Musbao Danwahab for the morning news highlights. Good morning, Musbao.
Good morning, Kieran and Kinsley. Let's tell you the news. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 195 new cases of COVID-19 in the country, increasing the total number of confirmed cases to 1,532. This new number, released late last night, is the highest number of cases recorded in a day in Nigeria since the outbreak. Of the 195 new cases reported, 80 are in Lagos, 38 in Kano, 15 each in Ogun and Bauchi State, 11 in Borno, while 10 are in Gombe State. 9 new cases have been reported in Sokoto, 5 each in Edo and Jigawa State, and 2 in Zamfara State. In this new update, the FCT, Rivers, Enugu, Delta, and Nasarawa States have a case each. 1 case previously reported in Gombe State is now recorded as a Borno State case. The number of cases in Borno is now 53, while that of Gombe is 46. 255 patients recovered and have been discharged, with 44 deaths recorded so far. And following that, Nasarawa State government says it is implementing more stringent measures in tandem with the federal government's directive as an index case of coronavirus pandemic emerges in the state. Governor Abdullahi Sule at a meeting in Lafia identifies the first case as a female traveler from Kano.
So for the first time, we had a lady that tested in Kokwana, and she's positive.
The government is drawing the attention of us to reduce movement and traveling up and down, especially with the restriction of interstate travels.
The police and other security agencies are more now focused on how to enforce proclamations and regulations.
The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, is proposing to test 2 million Nigerians for coronavirus in the next 3 months as part of detection and containment of the pandemic. This was disclosed at the daily briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in Abuja.
Virus is still potent, virulent, and dangerous. We must remain very vigilant and careful.
In 3 months across the country, we need to test about 50,000 per state, plus minus depending on your population size.
We have applied to Global Fund to support us with cartridges that will allow us to do testing with our junior expert machines. Those ones are faster. The results come out in about 45 minutes to 1 hour.
The presidency has drawn attention to the reported large number of food trucks that are being delayed at various checkpoints around the country or prevented from crossing state borders as a result of the various curfews and lockdowns in different states. A statement from the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says the restrictions of movements as a result of COVID-19 pandemic do not apply to vehicles transporting essential commodities such as food. The statement emphasized that the country cannot afford a situation where agricultural products are being left to rot in trucks held at various checkpoints where millions of Nigerians across the country need food. He said other essential items that can be transported despite the ban of movements as prescribed by the Presidential Task Force (PTF) and contained in the President broadcast on Monday include pharmaceutical and sanitary supplies, personal care items, agrochemicals and agricultural machinery, electrical products and electronics, oil and gas, career services, health supplies and protective garments. Garba Shehu in the release said vehicles transporting essential items must not convey any commercial passengers and the occupants must not exceed 3, with the drivers having basic protective and sanitary items including face masks, hand sanitizers and tissue paper to and from their destinations. He said once these conditions are satisfied, they must be allowed to travel freely to and from any parts of Nigeria. The Senate reconvening from a 6-week recess has approved 850 billion naira new external borrowing plan from the international capital markets as requested by President Muhammadu Buhari for financing the 2020 budget deficit. The Senate also commended President Muhammadu Buhari leadership of the National Assembly, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, health workers, international bodies, and all Nigerians in the containment process of COVID-19.
Government has responded well under the recommendations of scientists and health experts. We will continue in our efforts in the interest of our good health.
To thank the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for how far and what he has done so far.
Senate urges the executive to set up a national technical committee on COVID-19 made of relevant scientists and health professionals
to watch over these things that require funding. Let us be, as much as possible, demonstrate statesmanship.
And as part of legislative interventions to contain coronavirus pandemic, the House of Representatives has passed for second reading the Control of Infectious Diseases Bill, which seeks more powers to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to enable it effectively take charge during health emergencies, such as containing the spread of COVID-19. The bill was among other COVID-19 related items on the order paper when the House reconvened plenary.
In several areas, in matters of quarantine and the administration of public health and infectious diseases.
It is believed, even by the medical professional in the state, that there must be something behind or aside the COVID-19.
I do not know whether it is coronavirus. Were some associated with malaria, others associated with other ailments. But Mr. Speaker, the class of people, the age of people that are dying in Kano cannot be explained otherwise.
President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday received a telephone call from American President Donald Trump, during which the two leaders commiserated with each other on fatalities in their countries caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. They also shared ideas on how to successfully combat the health emergency. President Buhari expressed condolences to the government and people of the United States over the fatalities recorded and equally expressed worry at the high rates of death recorded across the world. The associated negative impact of the pandemic on the world's economy also came up for discussion. A statement from the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, said the Nigerian President lauded his American counterpart for the various initiatives adopted by his government to contain the further spread of the virus across the United States. He indicated Nigeria's readiness to cooperate with the United States to fight this common unseen enemy. President Buhari informed that Nigeria had taken a number of proactive measures to contain the spread of the COVID-19 across the country. The president welcomed the valuable friendship and expressed appreciation to President Trump for reaching out at this time. And that concludes the news highlight for now. Good morning, Nigeria. On COVID-19, reaching out to the vulnerables will continue with Kingsley and Kirian immediately after this break. Good morning.
I've got this very important message for you guys. Stay at home. No. Stay safe. Noruma. This is the right thing to do at this time. And don't forget, remember to wash your hands. Sachasia kage samaya sama, sachasia isia kage of mofuma. Together, we'll beat this thing. Are you ready now? Are you ready, man?
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
The main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Did you know that using bar soap and water protects against viruses? Many viruses are surrounded by an envelope with receptors that enable them to enter a human cell and cause infection. Bar soap destroys the outer layer of the virus and effectively removes it and reduces your chances of contracting the virus. Protect your family from the spread of viruses. Wash your hands using bar soap and water. Brought to you by Medifax and Dental.
In this time of despair, our country, Nigeria, needs us now more than ever. We stand a chance to save our great country, Nigeria. A chance to rise up from this pandemic stronger and better. What will be the gain if we do not learn from other countries and observe the lockdown to stop the further spread of the virus? If we loosen our guards and allow this virus doom our very existence, then what have we gained? This is the call to every Nigerian to unite as one and stop the spread of this deadly virus. Stay at home and stay safe. Remember, the virus doesn't move unless we move. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for business news, so let's go over to our desk.
With the coronavirus pandemic still having adverse effect on the global economy and the populace, government and spirited individuals have been rolling out economic stimulus packages to cushion the impact on the economy. According to the memo released by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Private Sector Coalition Against COVID-19 (CACOVID) Relief Funds is currently 27.16 billion naira. And in the meantime, deposit money banks are expected to resume clearing of checks as the Central Bank of Nigeria lifts the temporary suspension it placed on the clearing of checks in the country, with effect from 28th of April 2020. CBN Director, Banking Services Department, Sam Okorije, says the decision is in furtherance of its efforts in the development of a safe and efficient system in Nigeria. and as yields ticked higher at the head of the curve amid tight system liquidity. The Nigerian's naira in the unofficial foreign exchange market is already plunging following the declining export revenue, and $1 is being sold at 450 naira in the parallel market. This is due to the impacts of the pandemic on the economy amid weak fundamentals and oil price volatility.
Nigeria is very dependent on crude oil revenue. It constitutes about 90% of our foreign exchange, significant component of our revenue. All the budget algorithm has been tempered by the impact of the pandemic.
And on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, trades ended on a positive note. With Business News, Comfort Amadou.
We thank you, Comfort, for that package. We appreciate that. Now, up ahead on Good Morning Nigeria is newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atebe, is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Kire.
Yeah, Bayo.
Thank you.
It's good to have you again today.
Good to see you too. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, let's begin with the Punch newspaper. Punch, fairly busy front page. Above the nameplate says 8 power plants idle. Generation tumbles to 2,983 megawatts. Federal government seeks Jonathan and Desiane's foreign accounts details. There's a writer, I have no foreign bank accounts, says ex-president. That's page 12. COVID-19. IMF okays Nigeria's $3.4 billion emergency loan. And Germany grants federal government 8.9 billion naira debt relief and donates 2.2 billion naira. Buhari's team lands in Kano as 5 more personalities die. Federal government reserves hotels for Dubai returnees in Lagos. And President, that's Buhari, and Trump speak on coronavirus, and U.S. pledges ventilators. Suspected coronavirus patient dies in Ondo Hospital. Workers in fear. And you see the photographs there. These are pictures from the plenary sessions of both the House of Reps and the Senate yesterday in Abuja. Senate okays Buhari's request to borrow 850 billion naira locally. That's on page 24. 300 stranded Nigerians suffering from starvation in Guangzhou. Details on page 8. And of course, that story is attributed to the CLO. 2 killed and houses burnt in Benue communal clashes. Page 13. Federal government declares Friday public holiday for Workers' Day. And Karuna evacuates 327 from Islamic Center, arrests cleric. And bandits kill police inspector, abduct Kaduna monarchs and others.
All right, let's go over to the Daily Sun newspaper. On the right-hand side of the nameplate, the Senate approves Buhari's 850 billion loan request in 5 minutes. That's the way the Sun captured it. Bars journalists from covering proceedings. That's a write out to that. The story is on page 6. Now, below the nameplate, mysterious death claims father of Noun VC. Noun is a National Open University Vice Chancellor's father, BUK lecturer, cleric, others in Kano. The story is on page 26. Now, the lead story this morning on the Daily Sun, COVID-19, Trump calls Buhari, promises to donate ventilators. The 3 riders, Germany donates 2.2 billion naira, NCDC opens 2 new labs in Lagos and Ogun, targets 2 million tests in 3 months, urges Nigerians to adopt new way of life. The story is on page 8. Now, below the photo story here, we have federal government rules out reopening of schools soon. Lockdown won't affect essential commodities, says Buhari. The story on page 26. Now, 2020 budget under fresh threat as IOC's plan oil output cut. It's on page 2. NLC rejects salary cuts over COVID-19. Aviation unions hit Air reject forced leave of 90% workforce and 80% pay cut. The story is captured on pages 8 and 25 of the Daily Sun. Well, Kingsley just read this story now. PNID, federal government requests Jonathan's, Desiani, others bank statements. It's on page 4. Just a very brief rundown of Sun's index on COVID-19 worldwide. We have 3,094,829 confirmed cases of COVID-19 globally, with about 215,461 deaths. And in Africa, we have 33,627 confirmed cases, with 1,476 deaths. That's in Africa. Let's bring him by you.
Well, let's start with the COVID-19 for which you give a background. Yesterday, Nigeria recorded its highest cases of new COVID-19 ever. We had 195 cases, and from all indications, 80 of them were from Lagos. Kano, that just resumed testing, had 38. Ogun and Bauchi states each had 15. 195 were in 15 states. Nasarawa State, next door to Abuja, just recorded its first case. It's for a female returning from Kano. So far, the death rate too has increased. We now have 4 more deaths, bringing the total fatalities of our compatriots to 44. The NCDC says that they plan to test 2 million Nigerians in the next 3 months, and it is estimated that it will be 50,000 per state. And if you go by the 36 states, that will give you about 1.8 million. Maybe the 200 left there will be for the FCT. And the NCDC believes that by so doing, they will be able to up their act and, if possible, reach the peak and begin to see a decline in the number of cases. But this has become an issue of challenge because the NCDC is following the protocol of the World Health Organization and the one determined by the Federal Ministry of Health. The governor of Akwa Ibom State has said that random testing is indeed a waste of resources. He is planning to have his own approach. Similarly, the governor in Cross River State also says that the lockdown is apparently is just like copying and pasting from Europe and other parts of the world. For our own climb, he argues that lockdown will do a lot of damage to the economy and our agriculture. So that needs to be looked at. You know, when you have a problem, you almost will become a fool because you will get advices from several quarters, and if you are not careful, you get confused and rather get solutions.
Yes, but there's nothing wrong in, you say copy and paste, there's nothing wrong in adopting an established protocol that seems to be working. Right, because the new case we have in Enugu, for instance, the person traveled on 28th of March to Jos and came back 2 weeks ago and now reported positive. Now, what are we talking about here? He has been in Enugu for 2 weeks now. And within this period, he or she must be spreading the virus, whatever environment he or she, has been since 2 weeks. So now, if a governor is saying that the lockdown is a copy thing, I don't understand that because one, if you don't lock down, you get it imported into your state. As simple as that.
Well, that's true. I think that the principle will be, in general, lockdown and social distancing and all of those measures, they work. But there's an exception in Sweden, and a number of other European countries are trying to study the Swedish model. Sweden didn't embark on the wholesale lockdown. In fact, they didn't close their schools. But I remember watching the former Prime Minister of Sweden on television, one of the international networks, and he said something to the effect that social distancing is almost in the DNA of the Swedes. So how that plays out in terms of their interaction, social interaction, may have aided them. In other words, they have taken their own domestic circumstance into consideration in formulating that. And I think that that's part of the measure that is being adopted. But in our own case, you then have to throw into the mix ignorance, illiteracy, and then just share filth in the environment.
Yes, and again, belief system. In Sweden is less than 10 million people. So they have that population advantage, in terms of managing this kind of situation. All right, if you have less than 10 million people in the whole country, it is a bit more of a manageable population than what we have. Of course,
Indeed, like in Madagascar. What they have done there, that the president had actually championed a local concoction that is being used. So schools have not closed and business is going on as usual. They've been using the concoction and many of them are free. And they have not recorded any death so far in Madagascar.
On this program several times, Kingsley and I and others, we have encountered some topics that had to deal with the issue of how to develop either vaccine or locally made concoction, as the case may be. It is a possibility, as far as I am concerned, that it is, that we can get things done locally like Madagascar. I want to believe that, quite frankly, because if there is a deliberate attempt, to carry out some research on this, we have the herbs. It's only for somebody to direct his attention to what we were looking for. How do we do our own? How do we get ours? If we're depending on the protocol treatment that we have, now we are dropping in terms of recovery. Yes. Based on the number of cases that we're recording now. We are dropping in terms of recovery.
If you look at the numbers of recovery,
yes.
Of those persons who have been discharged, and then the escalating numbers of persons infected, and you can see that we are lagging. So what Kirian is saying, NIPRI, that is the Institute of Pharmaceutical Research. We've had a DG here a number of occasions. We've also had experts in phytomedicine. Professor McDonald Idu was with us last week. We have also had pharmacists and other experts who will say, listen, we are ready and we can research into these things, that you have a broad range of plants that you can explore for this purpose. So what Madagascar has done, it's very interesting. But Madagascar, of course, is an island off the African coast or the Indian Ocean, so you can control movement in and out of its country. But Senegal, it's also another very interesting case. Senegal has on its own developed its own testing kit, which it is using. I mean, in the papers today, you have a story that it costs about $18 to $20 to test for COVID-19 in Nigeria. But in Senegal, it's about $1.
Exactly.
Equivalent of $1.
And that is
they have that. So how did they do that? These are the kind of things we could learn from and see how we can ramp up. Every other person else is looking for solutions. We don't have to, in all cases, wait for WHO. Before, I mean, Kirian, you recall, it was on Good Morning Nigeria, probably we can also repeat this. For a long while COVID-19 was on, nobody was talking about the role of the immune system. And I recall on a Monday on Good Morning Nigeria, we had experts who were now talking about complementary or alternative medicine, and they did say that the immune system was vital. And I think 3 or 4 days later, the WHO then started talking about that. And after all, in the Federal Ministry of Health, there is a department of complementary medicine, which the WHO itself recognizes.
There is even a National Institute for Traditional Medicine that is there. It can work, the National Institute for Biotechnology, and they will go in this direction. I think it's a challenge also for the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology. There's good news now. Azikwe University have announced what they have been able to put out by way of discovering a test kit. University of Benin has also announced its own. I think there's Abuja Tafawa Balewa University, where they developed a manual oxygen respirator. That of the University of Benin is unique because you don't have to use oxygen. It uses the natural oxygen in the atmosphere. These are the challenges. When there are problems, our universities, our research institutes should be at the forefront of solving. But sadly, before this advent, we have our universities on strike.
They're not only being on strike, Bio. Over the years, there has been this negligence, with respect to issues of science and technology, especially developing local component in science and technology. That is the problem, because if we had a culture, of depending on ourselves when it comes to science and technology, by now, what we need to do is to ramp it up, and we begin to see results. But what happened was that neglect is going to affect us very seriously, coupled, of course, the fact that we don't have a good infrastructure in terms of hospitals and other health facilities across the nation.
The National Assembly yesterday resumed what is distance seating. And the House of Rev particularly were concerned. They are looking at the laws relating to quarantine and public health. While the Senate was very busy, they had to approve 850 billion to fund the 2020 budget. The Debt Management Office has clarified that this 850 billion is not a new loan. It was originally in the 2020 budget, but it was supposed to have been sourced for externally. So what they have done now is just like Environment. The Minister of the Executive went to the National Assembly to ask for, instead of seeking it from 850 billion externally, this will now be sought internally. And the Senate was emphatic that care must be taken to ensure that they are for the specific project and they monitor how they will be utilized.
Yeah. Okay, Bayo, very quickly, there are some stories not on the front pages of the papers we are very curious.
Yes.
But they are follow-ups. At page 9 of the Punch says Lassa fever emergency phase over. That's according to the NCDC. And then you also see at page 7 of the Punch, Umahi, that's the governor of Ebonyi, begs journalists, says feud not intentional. Remember he had said that he was banning reporters for life from Government House. But so it's reconciled with them, but there's a point there to note, which of course has to be disposed with. It says, as a father, when you beat a child with one hand, you bring the child back with another hand. Children are not, journalists are not the children of governors. I mean, let that be clear. I mean, let's be very clear. You have constitutional rules, and that's why the press or the media is referred to as the fourth estate.
The interesting is that he has apologized.
Yeah, that's right.
The issue of the Lassa fever you're talking about, the NCDC has reported that we have had a decline now. Actually, we are out of the epidemic frame. The other news that Kingsley read earlier on is the issue of a cleric who had been arrested in Zaria. They found in his boarding house 327 almajiris. Among them were 17 almajira, that is the girls. And against the Islamic faith, he was keeping these 17 girls among the older almajiri boys within the same house. The Commissioner for Social Development, Karuna State, have actually spoken about that. The man has been arrested. In fact, he's originally from Kebbi. He's from Dakingari in Kebbi, but he's been settled there in Zaria for a long time.
How are you going to deal with those children, that number of children now, in this present circumstance? How are we going to deal with them? Where are you going to keep them? Over 300 of them.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's take the editorial.
Yes. Editorial now, COVID-19 and emergent crimes. That's the editorial. Just to speak briefly on that, COVID-19 and emergent crimes in this society.
Well, in a nutshell, what the editorial is saying that, yes, Nigeria had this challenge of insurgency, armed banditry, armed robbery, farmer herders clashes, and also banditry. But with the advent of COVID-19 and the lockdown, you now have idle hands who are also taken to crime. And so we need to be very careful so that we can tackle the issues of crime exceedingly. It asks also that if the measures that they have taken is not working, that of the military action, they should focus on employment, because unemployment fuels crime than anything.
Okay, Baya Toyobe, thank you very much for being with us. We'll see you again tomorrow. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you the network service of the NTA. We take a short break now. When we return, we'll go ahead with our topic for discussion.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Shegun. Alpha, say tomorrow still day on.
What's your tomorrow?
Community meeting now.
You know they here, Abi?
Now beggy. See, if we meet for my house, inside parlor, then go no.
This COVID-19 is not a child's play.
If you want to elect the new secretary, we fit
Do one for WhatsApp, or for Skype, or even on Zoom. Or we just wait.
I will not negotiate.
This social distancing, it is not negotiable.
Not every infected person shows symptoms, but every infected person is contagious. Avoid large gatherings and self-isolate if you think you might have come in contact with a carrier. Your safety and the safety of others is in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Do you not know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do not say, I am the Iroko when the forest is burning. Do not say, I am the Obeche when the forest is burning. Our differences will not stop us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer.
Month of Ramadan is here again, and we at Al Habibiyah Islamic Society once again call on all faithful to observe the physical and social distancing directive of the government to curb the spread of COVID-19. Always wash your hands with soap and water, use hand sanitizers and face masks when necessary, and stay at home. Observe your obligatory salat, tarawih, tahajjud, du'as, and askars with your families from the comfort of your home. Stay at home. Stay safe. Stop the spread of COVID-19. This message is from Al Habibiyah Islamic Society. From Allah to you, a light.
I just don't understand this coronavirus thing. Is it real?
See, coronavirus, known as COVID-19, it's a global problem and has killed thousands of people in China, Italy, Spain, UK, US, and other countries around the world.
Okay. Now, why are they saying that we should stay home?
Because if you go outside and get in contact with someone who is infected, you become infected and then come back home, affect your family. That's how it happens in other countries.
Now, please, help me explain what this social distance is all about.
See, as we are now, the virus travels through the air and by touch. We must maintain 6 foot distance at all times.
Oh, so it's not by washing my hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer that is only important?
Washing of our hands regularly is very important. But we must come together and fight this virus like we did Ebola. It is our responsibility to each other.
The program is Good Morning Nigeria, and just before we explore our topic of the discussion this morning on COVID-19, reaching out to the vulnerable, here is a background report put together by Kunle Adeye.
The lockdown of the country as a result of the coronavirus outbreak has put many things on hold. Since a larger percentage of Nigeria's population depends on daily earnings, their source of livelihood has also been put under uncertainty. They are not the only set of people caught in this web. Governments of different countries have also been struggling with their economies. Because of this, jobs are lost on a daily basis and the number of vulnerable people keeps rising. As a result, this set of people can only depend on charity as a means of survival. The federal government, through the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, has been reaching out to these people through cash and distribution of palliatives to cushion the effects of the lockdown on them. Besides the federal government's gesture, state governments have followed a similar path to complement the efforts of the federal government. Corporate and faith-based organizations are also at the forefront. They are reaching out to the vulnerable around them and in IDP camps by distributing relief materials. 5 weeks into the lockdown, are the palliatives being distributed getting to the right recipients? Does the entire process still need some modifications to make it more effective? These and other pertinent questions await answers on Good Morning Nigeria in a moment.
Many thanks, Kunle Adeye, for the background. Now we have with us to discuss this issue in further detail Dr. Ramatu Tijani Aliu, who is the Honorable Minister of State of the Federal Capital Territory. Dr. Ramatu Aliu, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria. Also here with us in the studios is Professor Sunday Ochoche. He's Executive Director of the Victim Support Fund. Prof, thanks a lot for being with us on the program.
Good morning.
This morning. And Dr. Joe Anwar, who heads the Stakeholder and External Relations of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, is also our guest this morning. Pleasure to have you.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay.
And seated in our other studio this morning is Fuad Ademi, Imam Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, as always.
Thank you, sir.
And lastly, also seated in our network news studio with Imam Fuad is Israel Akonji, Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, North Central Zone. It is a pleasure to have you with us once again.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Once again, a pleasure to have all our guests with us this morning for this conversation. Let's begin with the Honorable Minister of State for the Federal Capital Territory. Of course, we have seen you several times. You've also been part of our conversation. You're mobilizing men and material to ensure that the palliatives get to persons in and around the Federal Capital Territory. But what is the situation with your efforts? What have you done? What have you achieved?
Well, so far so good. We flagged off with the Abuja Area Council, and palliatives were served, and definitely maybe one or two individuals who also decide not to abide by the rules of the distribution, but then it was easy to also get them traced out because there is already an existing structure which cuts across and whose membership also includes at least the civil society organization to represent those not indigenous and the rest of them. And we have the League of Imam, we have Khan, we have youths, we have women, we have royal fathers for the indigenous people. So basically the composition and the organogram covered all those people to represent their people. So immediately some funny individuals attempt one or two things, and the recipients are bold enough to come up to say, yes, this is it. I think we'll be able to trace those people. So the complaints so far we got in the call centers are being addressed. But we did Gwagwalada also, we did Kwali, we did Kuje, so we've concluded the FCT2, that's South Federal Constituency. Then we started the FCT1, which is Amaka Mbwari from Bwari. Not without challenges. In Dutse Alaji, there were obstructions. The first time we encountered people all out as if it's not a lockdown, like it's a campaign rally or sort, and then huge crowd, you can unimaginable huge crowd, to receive the goods, which were things we weren't prepared for, because we were expecting that the Buhari must have been set to receive the goods. And when I mean set, all the area councils that received the goods so far experienced total lockdown. So everybody will be in the house. For the structure is to serve a door-to-door exercise. That would have been much better, because in some households actually, you could have more than I don't even know, we're calculating a house like a membership of 5. And reasonably, if you have a compound, face me, I face you, each family head will be out to identify, being in the family, and they will be identified by also members of the structure that are representing various organizations. Definitely one person must, recognize that, yes, this is it. It's a community-based program. But in Dutse Alaji, we found a different case, because we found people as if they were brought in with a kind of trailer and offloaded there, that couldn't even go back to a certain house. So I think that was another thing. But eventually, because we have enough also security men to man the goods, being mindful that FCT has suffered recently in the hands of kidnappers and some other, crimes and vices. So we had the military men, in the villages to ensure that we do not face, or distributors do not face the acts of, being kidnapped. Then we have the police people also, policemen being distributed at least in each area council. About, like in Amak now, we'll have about 620. That is 10 per ward of the 12 wards. The other area councils about 600 of the policemen, 10 per ward. Then you have the road safety, the same figure, the civil defense, the VIO, like that, to ensure the traffic is. So whatever it is that happened must have also been a kind of either relaxed pattern from the Buhari area council leadership itself, not complying to the, adhering strictly to the pattern or modus operandi that we had practiced in other places. So I think,
well spoken, Honorable Minister. Let me take you back, to the people who are not within the structure that you're working with, because of course you have some indigents, in the areas as you mentioned, but there are non-indigents as well who are vulnerable. Well, these are the classes of people that are artisans. Some of them barrow pushers, vulcanizers, food vendors, laborers who work at construction sites, Okada riders where it is existing, and of course tricycle riders. These people may not have been captured in this structure we're talking about. You also mentioned really that some of them have been taken care of. I want you to broaden this conversation to accommodate whatever method that you are applying to get them, because these are the majority of people who come into Abuja to work from Arukaro, Maraba, Nyanya, and the other areas you just mentioned. How are they being brought into focus?
Well, at Benicio, we looked at it like if there is a lockdown and it was adhered strictly to, at least they were coming from a home. You mentioned Karo, Nyanya, if they stay there, they will also be served. But if they are, that is why there is a lockdown in the territory to be served. And that will also regulate those people from coming in at that period, so that when we get to their place, they get served. Or else we'll be facing issue of double service, and it will be chaotic. Besides that, what is the function of the civil society organization that is in there? So that is why we thought the civil society organization will identify such people, and they did identify those people in other area councils. We had recipients, many recipients that aren't, indigents of the Federal Capital Territory. We had artisans. They are also human beings. We're not counting by profession. We cannot carry all to be members but some certain blocks could represent, which has also been a very clear representation since, you know, this country have been. So I think so far so good. The civil society organization have done their best and they represent it. But now in the case of AMAC, we are, well, the incident in Buhari now availed us the opportunity to go back to the drawing board. We had finished FCT2. Now with AMAC and Buhari, we will be dividing the AMAC. Buhari, some sections were suspended actually, and we will be revisiting that. But in the AMAC now, we will divide it into about 4 components. There are some wards that are actually very, very large. Those can stand on their own, looking at Gwarimpa. Then we have areas divided into 3 now, each one with the blocks, the central, the east, and the west. And with this now, each of the groups and we've strengthened the surveillance and the monitoring team.
When do you hope to do this part of AMAC? Because effective next week, obviously, lockdown will be...
Thursday.
Tomorrow is Thursday.
That's tomorrow, yeah.
Effective tomorrow.
So today, since early at around 5:30, we've started loading. You load all through the night until that morning. So we wish also to announce and to appeal to residents of the AMAC to please stay at home for today, at least to be served. But we will announce the area after the meeting today that the decision will be made, and we'll make it clear. You'll be supportive there and making the announcement, you know, reach everyone.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of State for the Federal Capital Territory. We'll turn to you in the course of the conversation. Let's bring in now the Executive Director of the Victim Support Fund, Professor Sunday Ochochi. We introduced him a while ago. Prof, tell us what has been the scope of your outreach and what is the feedback?
Thank you very much. You will recall that at the outbreak of the pandemic, the chairman of the Victim Support Fund, General Danjuma, inaugurated a task force to respond specifically to the challenges arising from the pandemic, in particular to reach out to victims of the insurgency that are primary focus in our mandate, as well as other vulnerable citizens of Nigeria, especially in the epicenters of the pandemic of Lagos, FCT, and Ogun State at the beginning. So this task force was inaugurated, and it has since gotten off ground to work. We right now have been able to reach Borno State, Adamawa, Yobe, Taraba, FCT, Lagos, and Ogun States. And we targeted a total of 27,000 households in these states. This is the first phase of our intervention. And the intervention was actually flagged off here in FCT. The Honorable Minister of State for FCT, who is the chairperson of the task force for FCT, flagged off our intervention, represented by her Director General of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And we did that here in the Malaysia Garden at the IDP, where a lot of the IDPs are concentrated. And so our focus in the FCT is the IDPs that are in FCT and their host communities. And we, for each household, share or distribute 10 kg of rice, 10 kg of beans, 10 kg of maize for the northern states, and gari, 10 kg of gari for the southern states, as well as 4 liters of vegetable oil and salt. So every household gets this as the package for the units. I mean, the unit package for each household. And like I said, we flagged off here on the 14th of this month in FCT. And since then, we have also done the same in Maiduguri, in Damaturu, in Yola, Jalingo, Lagos, and Abeokuta.
Okay. Dr. Joe Anwo, you are the head stakeholder and external relations bureau of public enterprises. Now, let's have an idea of what you are involved in with respect to providing palliative for vulnerable Nigerians. So let's understand what should be your role in the present circumstance that the nation has found itself.
Yeah, thank you. The BP is a reform agency of government, and my Director General, Mr. Alex Oko, had proactively realized that we are coming to this point before it even started in Nigeria. He shared a video with me of how palliatives were being shared in Europe, and he said, "Joe, we can do this." I said, "Yes, sir, we can." And at about the time the lockdown was to be announced, we held a management meeting where the Bureau and its staff members put some funds together, and we decided to reach out to the vulnerable in the society. We actually had done in 4 locations. The first one was on the 6th of April at Duse Alaji. Then the second one was at Yimitu village after Apo on the 14th. Then we had at Drumi village in Pape suburb on the 21st. No, the Yimitu village was on the 9th. Then the 14th was at the Apo Drumi village in Mpape. Then on the 21st, we rounded up at Baupe village in Kwali Area Council off Lugbe Road there. Yeah, what the Bureau did was to put together palliative in forms of food items. In each bag, we had a 10 kg bag of rice, 5 mudu of beans, 5 mudu of gari, 1 liter of oil, the large size of a salt sachet, the large size of a sugar sachet, a sachet of a Maggi pack, then a 5 sachet of tomato paste. Our assumption is that in a family of 4, that should be able to serve for at least a week, and we distributed to about 1,200 households all around the 4 centers that we distributed to.
Are you limiting your operation here in Abuja? Are you extending it to other parts of the country? Is there a possibility of doing that?
Basically, we operate in Abuja here, and with our little resources, we felt that the vulnerable in society, our emphasis was actually on widows, single mothers, widows to take like 30%, single mothers another 30%, and the remaining 40% for the very vulnerable, the aged, the physically challenged, and all that sort within the society.
Do you intend to source for funds from other, not just from the BPE, you intend to source, because of course you deal with the public, and of course you know those whose pockets are large. Are you intending to launch a kind of funding to be able to increase what you have to offer to the people?
Yeah, we have done our little widow's mite, but with the question you've asked now, maybe when I go back, I'll put it before my Director General, Mr. Alex Oko, to see how we can compassionately again reach out to the people, because he's a very compassionate person and he felt Nigerians need more of this. The BP alone cannot do it, and even the government alone itself cannot do it. We need the private sector. We need private individuals to come and assist, because this pandemic is a global one, and it's something that all hands must be on deck to see how we can help our brothers and sisters. Okay. It is really devastating. When you go out there, you will see that there is poverty, there is hunger in the land.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Joe Anwar, and indeed the other 3 guests, Honorable Minister of State, FCT, and Professor Sunday Uchoche. Well, I mean, a number of the areas we've been hearing are here in the Federal Capital Territory. We do hope that at the end of the lockdown, when all of this is over, you won't see that most people in the FCT now have rosy cheeks, and elsewhere in the country, people have kwashoko appearance, which is why my colleague was asking, I mean, why don't you also reach out to, to other locations beyond the FCT? BPE covers the entire country, I believe, as well as the Victim Support Fund. So we do hope that your tentacles will spread out, even though those state governments are also doing their bit. Let's go over now to our network studios, where we earlier introduced the Reverend Israel Akonji, who's chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria North Central Zone, as well as Imam Fuad Adeyemi. But let's begin first with the Reverend Dr. Israel Akonji. Reverend Israel Akonji, tell us what has been the role of faith-based organizations in terms of relieving the tedium as well as the hardship occasioned by the lockdown as a response to COVID-19.
Thank you very much. Let me talk about the faith-based as it pertains to the Christian faith. Actually, for us as Christians, undertaking the services of assisting people in difficulties is not new. It is not anything that is restricted to the COVID-19. It has always been part of scriptures to teach people in our churches and in our organizations to be compassionate, to take care of the needy. In fact, in the Bible, in the book of Matthew chapter 25, Jesus put himself in the place of the poor, as to say that when he's hungry, you have fed him. When he's in prison, you have visited him. When he's sick, you have taken care of him. So the works of mercy and the works of compassion, they have always been an integral part of the teaching of the gospel, which we preach. Therefore, when this pandemic came, it was just like a call to step up that which we normally have been doing. So for us in the Christian Association of Nigeria, we have been approaching it holistically. First, with instruction to all our churches, not only in North Central, but across the country, all churches to rise up to assist the needy people generally, whether they are Christians or Muslims or of other faith. Every needy person should be assisted. Therefore, from whatever savings or collections that churches have had, we've been encouraged to take care of the needy people around us. And so that's one major step that has gone across the country. Now, apart from that, people of substance have been encouraged to contribute specially for the needy people at such a time as this. And that is the experience we're having everywhere. We're also working as faith-based because we have various denominations. Each denomination is coming together and finding ways to help the poor and the needy. In fact, visiting the IDPs and going to take care of them is part of what we have been doing. And the faith-based organizations are also collaborating with the government. You will have seen in Lagos State, Ogun State, Edo State, wherein the Christian Association of Nigeria has gone to support the government, and some of the denominations like the Baptist Church from where I come, we have gone to support the government's effort by donating. In fact, today, after this program, bid to the FCT for us to make another donation, which is coming from the Christian Association of Nigeria. So that is part of what we are doing. Also, in every state where the Christian Association of Nigeria is, the National Christian Association has spoken to every group on what to do and has even sent financial assistance for each group to be able to galvanize whatever it has to assist. In my own church, we have been calling on people in various categories of need, the unemployed, the widows, the people that are in need to come to the church at particular times. We have had foodstuff, rice, oil, toiletries, which we have distributed to people. In fact, last night I was in a movement around the entire crescent where we live, and we were looking at a specific group. That is the security people, the night guards, the gate men, and all these things, because they are like a kind of people forgotten, and we were going to them. I remember last night we visited up to 96 different places to meet the various people, to give them handouts like rice and some materials to help them. So it is a comprehensive thing that the church is doing at local, state, and national level, and calling on people to be part of it. It's been part of our Christian faith to do that. It's just a step up now during this pandemic.
All right, just a step up. It is part of the practice of the Christian faith, but I also know that is as well a part of Islamic faith because we know that there are some of such palliative measures that are enshrined in the Quran. We hear about zakat and what have you. So let's now go to Fuad Ademi, Imam Al-Habibiyah Islamic Society, who has not only been the Imam of that society, but has been involved also in such a palliative moves in the past, before the advent of coronavirus. And I mean, let us into what you're doing now, because I'm sure you have ramped up, you have expanded your horizon in terms of reaching out to more people, unlike before, where you have your usual distribution of food items to the needy. What have you done differently now that will enable you to reach out to more people through your society?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate for your kind words on the little we have been doing. But first and foremost, before I continue what we have been doing from the faith base, let me first and foremost confirm what His Excellency the Honorable Minister of State or FCT has been saying. I've been part of the distribution we have been doing, especially the one in our Buhari Area Council, which I was highly impressed, and I want to appreciate them for that. Then secondly, let me pick from the main Islamic body what they have been doing. Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs have started distribution of palliatives in different places. That is one. And so many other Islamic organizations like NASFAT, they have also reached to their members. The Ansarudin, I believe they even want to give something to the government. I think probably they have done that or they want to do it, but I'm very sure they are also doing that. And there's also a coalition of Islamic organizations against COVID-19 now, which has about 47 Islamic organizations, and they are reaching out to different people in different parts of Nigeria. Then coming now home, we at Al-Habibiyah, our main thing is actually be helping others. Initially, we have a program called Al-Habibiyah Food Bank that has been existing for almost 15 years. With that now, we have some other areas that are also into supporting others. We have Al-Habibiyah Zakat Foundation. Then recently, we just created an organization called DSI, that is Do Something Initiative. The essence of Do Something Initiative is to now look at post-COVID era, because we know businesses will crumble, there will be challenges, there will be anything. In partnership with our international donor who has been supporting us, MacArthur Foundation, we have started Do Something Initiative that by the special grace of God, after this, we will also begin to take care of the challenges that we might be facing. Then also, in the area, I told you we have 3 organizations that are in charge of welfare. We bring DSI, that is Do Something Initiative, Zakat Foundation, and Al-Habibiyah Food Bank. The 3 of them that are also into welfare. We bring all of them into one basket. Initially, even before the federal government lockdown, that we started lockdown in FCT, and we want to be grateful to the administration of FCT, especially the FCT minister. He gave some money to the Christian and the Muslim, which the one that got to the Muslim, incidentally, I was also part of the group that distributed it. The one that got to Asokoro, Guzape area was given to us, in Al-Habibiyah, about 6 bags of rice. With that, we reach out to our members. We increased that 6 bags to 30 bags of rice, which we distributed. After that, we also added money. Then we have done that about 3 times. As at yesterday, what we are now doing now is sending cash to our members in different parts of Nigeria. It will interest you. Just yesterday, Kogi State just got their own. We've sent money to our members in Lokoja, precisely, Okene, Anyigba, Ampa. Although it's very, very small, we've not been able to get to anywhere. We've also sent money to our members in Kaduna, in Lagos, and part of Oyo State, and some part of Osun. But all these, we still discover that the effort of government is actually trying. Then the one which we are doing, we believe we have not reached anywhere, because each time you give one, about 20-30 people will come within seconds. So, and these are the things. But definitely, the program is still ongoing by God's grace. As of today, we are still trying to raise funds among our members to be able to reach to other people who are not our members, that they will be able to have cash
gift to support them. Then besides, there's even a program that Al-Habibia is planning to do with Nigerian Television Authority, NT Abuja now. In fact, the program is going to start today at NT Abuja. We call it Ramadan Link. The essence of the program here is to link people who have, because of this lockdown, they may not be able to come out. We want them to send something. If there is need for somebody to come and collect it, we will make arrangements with the security and all other people to be able to get to those who want to give and to be able to take it to those who are in need. By God's will, I think that one is also starting today.
All right. Thank you very much, Imam Fuad Adeyemi, for your contribution. We will return to you both in the course of the remainder of the program. But let's come back to the Honorable Minister of State for the Federal Capital Territory. Fine. I mean, the outreach, by the various organizations, governmental and non-governmental, we've had a broad sweep of what's playing out. But there have also been some disturbing accounts with regard to the quality, more especially, and also the quantity of the handouts that people are receiving. I mean, this is not. I'm sure you have heard the story of Oyo State Governor, rejecting the rice that came to Oyo, saying it wasn't fit for human consumption, and NAFDAC saying that they were not part of the examination of the quality of that rice. They only examined Lagos and Ogun states. So, who monitors quality assurance of the items being distributed in the first instance so that it doesn't have a backlash, assuming it's of poor quality?
Well, definitely that function is that of the NAFDAC, and in the FCT also we have our Social Development Secretariat. They are in under primary healthcare and agri department. We looked at our own goods and we ensured that we got quality goods. We are yet to use the five trucks of rice that were brought in by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. We received it and it's still in the warehouse because before now we have also a minister who is up his game. We looked at developed climes and saw what was happening there. We knew a time would come like this that we really need to, depend on palliatives for people to, be comfortable at home. So we had made, this storage, adequate storage, enough of these palliatives. And the one from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, the 5 trucks also came in larger quantity bags that we really need to rebag. So we focus now on these, but the ones we saw and received from them, by and large, I think it's a good quality rice. But we'll still with these complaints here and there. We'll also invite NAFDAC to look into the store because each product is warehoused differently from when we receive from an organization or government. The warehouse still is different, so we've not mixed them, and we'll be back to that. And to look at also, we had different sectors of people that did not even fuse into the general society, like people living with disability. We also now constituted their own COVID-19 response team, and there again we educated them, we educate again and again, and we made distributions looking into the numerical strength of their 3,000, and then they've long commenced distribution in their various colonies, the beggars colonies, the lepers, the blind, and so on, Karmajiji, Al-Heli, and so on, and they all took it according to their numerical strength, and they have started disbursement. And we also looked at the widows. The widows and the orphans. We started from the barracks, our fallen heroes. We also looked at, we collected the numerical strength from the commandants of those areas, and they all came together and gave us this. We took it holistically because they gave us across the Federal Capital Territory and environs, Kefi, Suleja, Gwagwalada, and Abuja itself, Mogadishu, Lingu Barracks, Fort IBB, Camp W, Basi, and so on. And we gave all this and we reached out to them. As we said, this is also just phase 1 of what we are given. We targeted in the general program about 600,000 vulnerable houses. And now we just distributed 25,000 to each area council vulnerable houses. That means we just did phase 1. They will be receiving another 25,000 and another 25,000 and another 25. We hope it's not going to last for too long, that we'll be locked down. And we are also crying out because the lift from the lockdown will be, I will not want to use the word counterproductive, but to some extent we need us to up our game by securing our stores, by also securing areas to be distributed to, or else the backlash will be too heavy. So far so good. I don't think it's a bad thing we've done so far.
So, sorry, I was just wondering, just in terms of the category of recipients, Reverend Akonje was talking about private security guards also being in their loop. And earlier you talked about you having cops on the beat, you also having civil defense and others. Are they also part of the recipients of the palliatives? Because it is one thing to be guarding this, and I've been seeing truckloads just going by, and you know what that could cause.
The ones on what we did, we categorized what we gave. Yes, if we go into the barracks, the police barracks or the military, all these forces, definitely their families are also members of communities. Definitely they've been captured. But again, there is a different bargain for some classes of people, so that we do not get them, divert the real palliative. You will see it written, the poor and the vulnerable, so that they do not divert it. And when we see that in the area it's not supposed to be, we had also admonished residents and indigents to please videotape and upload or call our call center, because theirs is a different brand and also it's a different package altogether.
Okay, now talking about avoiding diversion, that's why Kislo was saying, look, all those security operatives who are accompanying the palliative from place to place and sharing to people, they also need to get something, or if you want to avoid diversion.
Even besides that, you know that it is so tight, the composition is tight. Okay. Who is going to let go? Okay. Who will let you go with his own goods?
All right. So, thank you, Honorable Minister. Let's bring back Professor Osonde or Church. You were itching to say something after the contribution by Dr. Joe. Or you can make that contribution and also tell us more about what you're doing. Have you been able to spread your tentacles beyond what you told us earlier on?
First of all, additionally, really, I was going to make the point that the emphasis has been on food, which is very critical, no question. And a lot of people are under stress, for that, and it's very basic, it's a requirement. But from the Victim Support Fund, we have done more than just food. We recognize that this is a critical medical and health issue. So, beyond providing food for IDPs and the most vulnerable and indigent in society, part of the call by Mr. President to all was to support institutions and agencies that are also responsible for the management of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so one of the things we have done from the Victim Support Fund is to support the medical capacity of the different agencies that are responsible for the management of the cases. And so in addition to the 27,000 households that we've targeted with food items, we've targeted a number of agencies with medical support, medical supplies.
Namely, agencies now. What are those agencies you are targeting?
A number of hospitals in our states of intervention in Borno, Adamawa, Yobe, Taraba, Ogun, Lagos, FCT, where we are providing sanitation and hygiene equipment. We are providing personal protection equipment for the medical workers. And this we are providing in significant quantity. Still, like has been said, nothing we will provide will be enough, given how huge the need is. So we are providing this. And we have had significant discussion with the Federal Ministry of Health, for example, around some of the challenges the ministry will be having in leading this whole process. And so we are in the process of providing specific technical support as well to the ministry to be able to do a lot of what it needs to do to lead the rest of us and other people in tackling, the medical component of this pandemic. Like I said, we are not just in FCT. Our primary area of focus has been the Northeast, and that is where a lot of our support has gone as well. Because of the predominance of infection in Lagos and Ogun, we are also there with FCT. But this is just phase one. We are reviewing our intervention of the first phase, see what we have done well, what we have not done well, especially considering that for us in Victim Support Fund, the distribution of food and these palliatives is not part of our primary mandate and focus. So we are going into an area that the exigencies of the time, the demands of the time pushed us into. So we need to work closely with a number of the experts in the field, as well as examine how far we have come. The likelihood is that we are going to target some of the other states that are showing significant increase in these developments, with issues around sensitization, with the campaigns for prevention, and we'll be thinking around about Kano, about Edo, about a number of the states in the south, generally, that we will be targeting not just with food, but also with the support with medical items.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Ochochi. Let's bring in again Joe Anwo of the Bureau of Public Enterprises. I want to return to the question of quality and quantity of the handouts. How has your organization tried to ascertain the quality of what is being given out on the one hand? And from a PR point of view, what do you read from the faces of those who are receiving this? What's the feedback you are getting from their reactions?
Okay, thank you for that question. Wonderfully well, the recipients thanked God for our intervention. Initially, they thought it was intervention from the federal government. But we now said, no, we don't have enough to give to everybody. This is just our widow's mite, a token from the BPE, an organization of government, trying to support the effort of the federal government. From the little the staff put together, and as to the quality, we went to the Wuse market, where we procured every item that we distributed. NTA, AIT, channels all covered the event at the various locations. And from the aged, the widows who received these items, it was all joy. They realized that it was timely for the intervention by the BPE, as at when this palliative was distributed to them. So it was all joy to all the recipients.
Okay, well, thank you.
You talked about the quality of what...
The quality, like I said, is top-notch. Because we got this, I must tell you, they are locally produced rice here in Nigeria that were procured from the Wuse market. And before we bought, we sought to see what we are buying. And the sellers in the market actually brought out the rice we saw physically, that these are good quality rice before we procure.
Someone wants to add something. Someone wants to add something.
You want to add something, Minister of State?
Two things quickly. Looking at the quality and also a little brief into the post-COVID-19, program. Now, the quality. First and foremost, we also have to look at, corporate organizations that were already into rice packaging. We have the Dala Foods, the Naturals, the Arewa Foods, and then the Sahad Store, and the entirety of the, market community within the Federal Capital Territory to give us the best they have already packaged, and then to put them together, considering one, this lockdown is also putting them out of business for a while. So patronizing them and getting them together to do the packaging, to bring their bags and bring, condiments from various, now patronizes them and give them the market. At the same time, all these other people, so the quality is also top-notch. We know, especially, not foreign rice, we are patronizing local content. Now again, the post-COVID-19 period, we also looked at now coming back, working in conjunction with the Central Bank of Nigeria. We have also packaged a program that will be going back to farm, using the social distancing and, regulating our people.
Okay, Honorable Mr. Offset, we'll pause you there for a while. Let's get to Israel Akonji, Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, North Central Zone. In terms of quality, because this issue is very important, because we heard in the passing week that some state governors rejected what some of the food items, donated to states, by customs service. So that brought in the issue of quality of what is being, given out to people. Talk about the quality and perhaps other issues around your program for these palliatives.
Thank you very much. I also watched that program on the television wherein there was the controversy between what was given and what was received. And the quality was said to be low, especially the Oyo State case. Now, in our own case, definitely it is an issue of very high quality. And like my brother Imam Fuad said, the FCT administration assisted us with very high quality of what was provided. The problem is just that the quantity was low, and we were expecting that probably there will be a second round, especially when there was an extension to the lockdown. We thought that what was given was to take care of the short period, the immediate one, but the quality has been very good. It's just that we will want additional quantity of qualitative items so that we could reach out to more people. Definitely, we are grateful from the FCT, what they have done, but we need to do more. And in our own case, all the things we have been providing, they have been of very high quality. It's just that the number of people needing help, the number is so large that we are not able to go around. Surprisingly, when we give even very small quantity of qualitative items to people, they are very, very grateful. And like we spoke about the need for money too. Sometimes people who come to even receive assistance, they have no money to move themselves from one part of the city to another. We have 6 area councils in the FCT, and people come from all those places. Sometimes they need money, and I think whatever money we give them to is of quality to them, and they are usually very thankful. And like before I just round off that, it's not only food items we are giving. Our basic work, of course, is to preach the word of God. Therefore, to encourage the hearts of the people, that the Bible says there is a time for everything. There are different contrasts of time. A time for peace, a time for war, a time for joy, a time for sorrow. All these times come. And to let people know that God is in control. So as we are giving items, we are strengthening them in the word of God, praying with people every day, and giving counsel, and especially supporting the government's crusade on staying at home and following all the rules. So all these things combined with the items we give make the people happy and rejoice, and they have great hope. And I believe that once the heart is healed and strengthened, then we have a great hope to have victory over this COVID-19.
All right. Thank you very much, Reverend Akonji, for your comments there. Let's also hear from Imam Fuad with regard to quality and quantity on the one hand, and whether you are also apprehending Oliver Twistian behavior from those who are receiving these things from you.
I will start from where you stop, and I will support my senior brother here that we want to thank the FCT and the federal government itself. They have to involve the religious group more in this distribution of palliative, because definitely we will be able to do it because we know the people have access to us, and we will be afraid if at all you want to do anything wrong, because your people can get you at any time. Secondly, the issue of the quality. There's a verse of the Quran says, it says, you can never get anything good from God unless you spend from what you love most. So based on that verse, It is the simple thing that when you want the best from God, you give the best out. And secondly, if you remember about 10, 11 years ago, there was a crisis of poisonous beans. I don't know that you remember. That time we used to give, we have been feeding people that time. So because of the challenge we have that time, since that time, we have been involving NAFDAC and other agencies in everything which we do. Even every day when we cook, before this pandemic started, it is one thing that we used to. We must go get in touch with NAFDAC. They ascertain, they mark our food right before it goes out. Even in the number of people that serves in the kitchen, we have about 15 permanent staff that we used to employ, and we have everything about them. They have to clean, they have to bath before you enter our kitchen, and they do not allow anybody to just enter the kitchen. So all this, it is already inbuilt in our system. It's not just because of the pandemic that is there now. It is just what we know how to do best. All what we are trying to do is to scale it up. Naturally, we have to get the best because that is where our family also eats, especially when we cook.
Well, the good news is that not only the government is in this, organizations are in this, private individuals are also doing that. Some societies are also into provision of palliatives, but that's what it should be in a situation of this nature. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We're going to take a short break now. We will return in just a moment.
The Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, under the leadership of its President General, His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar, CFR MNI, congratulates the Muslim Ummah on the commencement of the fasting of the month of Ramadan, beseeching Allah to grant us the blessings of the month and to inscribe us among the inhabitants of Al-Jannah. The Council has directed the suspension of congregational Taraweeh prayers, Majalis al-Tafsir, Quranic sessions, and i'tikaf seclusion in the mosques during the month of Ramadan. Islamic scholars and organizations are to employ the electronic media for dissemination of tafsir and other da'wah activities. Janaza, washing, shrouding, prayer and burial of Muslim victims are to be carried out by officials of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, and other government health officials. Detailed guidelines on the suspension and the janaza are available on the Council's website and are being published in national dailies and sent to the federal and state governments as well as leadership of state councils and various Islamic organizations. The Quran says, "Make not your own hands contribute to your destruction." His Eminence the Sultan praised the Almighty Allah to preserve our lives beyond the Ramadan and grant us its blessings. Mr. Yusuf Nwoha, Director Administration, Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, announcer.
As you can see, I'm at home. I'm reading a book. When I get bored, I watch movies. Life has not stopped. Together we can beat this thing. All we have to do is make sure we do the necessary things, which is wash our hands, use hand sanitizer frequently, wash your hands with soap. Please avoid crowded environments, crowded places. If you must head out to get groceries, use the face mask. So please stay safe, stay responsible, and stay at home.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
I just don't understand this coronavirus thing. Is it real?
See, coronavirus, known as COVID-19, it's a global problem and has killed thousands of people in China, Italy, Spain, UK, US, and other countries around the world.
Okay. Now, why are they saying that we should stay home?
Because if you go outside and get in contact with someone who is infected, you become infected and then come back home, affect your family. That's how it happens in other countries.
Now, please, help me explain what this social distance is all about.
See, as we are now, the virus travels through the air and by touch. We must maintain 6 foot distance at all times.
Oh, so it's not by washing my hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer that is only important?
Washing of our hands regularly is very important. But we must come together and fight this virus like we did Ebola. It is our responsibility to each other.
All right, welcome back at the still. Good morning, Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, we have a number of tweets that have come in from our viewers. The tweets are in torrents, by the way. Kira, let's quickly go through these tweets and then return to our guests. All right, the Reverend Mani Akman tweets, a woman in Akwa Ibom State openly thanked the government on behalf of her family in a radio phone-in program for the 3 cups of rice she received with the name of palliative. That says it all, really. Are you sure? And the government, corporate bodies, and financially endowed Nigerians need to do more.
Raji Afis Abidami, federal government has played its part. I want to urge state governors, senators, members of House of Rep and local government chairmen should commend the efforts of federal governments to feed vulnerable in Nigeria during this pandemic and after COVID-19.
Eno Ayuk, there is currently no reliable database on vulnerable Nigerians at both federal or state government levels. Well, there is a national social register, so that will give you part of the database. And so we cannot say that there's no reliable database. There's a national social register from which we have sourced 2.6 million households, now being ramped up to 3.6 million households.
All right, Usman Banikantu, supporting the vulnerable with palliatives will be an effort in futility as much as community transmission is not prevented. Therefore, it is high time for NCDC to be publishing the identity and locations of positive cases, whether highly placed or not, to enable them trace their contacts.
Dele Jack Solomon, children, pregnant and lactating women, IDPs, etc., are the hidden victims of this pandemic. It is important that government at all levels will reach out to the families who are especially vulnerable and provide needs-based support to them, essential hygiene and food products, which will also be very valuable against the virus.
Abdul says the system of distributing the palliatives is deficient. It's not structured to get to the targeted audience. The items too need to undergo proper scrutiny in view of the present outcry by those who got it. But I have to talk to Abdul here to say that the palliative distribution is inefficient. It may not be correct because I'm not sure you have carried out any investigation to be able to say that if you had cited any case that you have investigated, that this will make sense.
All right. Bola Bob says vulnerability in this circumstance is relative. Those who were vulnerable may have multiplied in the last 5 weeks. There were those who have lost their jobs, those in hospitality as well as aviation industry, among a few others. How do we then extend the vulnerability net? Time ticks, according to him.
All right, Law Officer, it's unfortunate that both the federal and state governments have good intentions to alleviate the sufferings of the vulnerable. Now, no thanks to the lockdown occasioned by COVID-19 outbreak, but 95% of poorest of the poor in our communities have not been reached.
Badamasi Adamu says, those of us in Karshi, a satellite town in the Federal Capital Territory, are yet to receive the palliatives since the restriction order given by the federal government. Karshi.
All right, now, Chris Simeon, physically challenged, the poorest of the poor need care and love this critical time. So if you are a well-to-do individual, show them charity, give them the little that they have.
Okahu David says, do you think the vulnerable are the ones on the street only? Anyone who has less than 5,000 in his account, whenever money enters that account, be it salary within 72 hours, is vulnerable and needs government assistance. Majority of us work from hand to mouth. You have money entering your account and it is 5,000 that is left there. It means that you have been able to take care of other items of expenditure. That is why you cannot be a vulnerable person, Kieran. I mean,
yeah, Mike, was the vulnerable, the aged, handicapped people with developmental disabilities are the worst victims of COVID-19 throughout the world. We must show love to these individuals and emphasize on their welfare as well-beings. Well, they need our support at this point in time.
Nandom Wuyep. Now, if we reached out and tackled everything that is trying to destabilize us in this great country the way we are individually and with one voice now fighting COVID-19 daily, this land will be the envy of other nations.
Clifford Agwego says, for the avoidance of doubt, I am an executive member in my estate and we proactively sent the list requested at the LCDA level for intervention. We were told our list came late, yet lockdown is subsisting and nobody cares to know how some hospitals are coping. But you didn't tell us the estate in question and the location of the estate.
He lives in an estate.
Yes.
He lives in an estate.
And he's vulnerable.
He's vulnerable. All right, maybe it's part of the aviation industry or the hospitality business. Nicholas, sorry, we're not making light of this. I mean, it's just to relieve the tedium. Nicholas Amok, the federal government needs to devise another means of reaching out to the vulnerable in terms of BVN and getting them captured with clear bank accounts for them, and it should be a continuous thing.
Mutana Farouk, the government at all levels, the private sector and other philanthropic individuals have really tried their best to provide succor to the vulnerable ones. One of the reasons that makes this effort unnoticeable is the pestilence of poverty caused by bad governance over the years.
All right, Francis Obey says the government may not have the full picture of all vulnerable people. Now, this leads us back to what the local governments ought to do by providing such information because they are closest to the people. Local governments should be financed to enable them provide adequate information on the vulnerable to be catered for.
Edith Izu Obano, Nigerians are starving. Imagine a widow with 6 children going out for daily food. With the lockdown, what will they eat? Well, Edith, we'll be talking about palliatives. If you know such a widow, you better direct her well where to go and get her own part of the palliative.
Now, Baba Wo Osaume tweets, N-Power beneficiaries are hungry. The minister should please pay them on time because paying them late at this critical time is not fair, and the minister should come up with a concrete plan on how to give the 2016 beneficiaries batch permanent jobs.
Jack Solomon, I'm not sure you made a good sense here, mitigating secondary effects of the coronavirus outbreak by facilitating continued access to education. Look, we are not currently talking about education now. Let people survive.
I was just wondering, that last tweet from the end beneficiary, of course, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs is not here, but it's a pertinent question I would like to ask the Honorable Minister of State. Look, who are the agents being used for this distribution? Because they're saying here, look, N-Power pay us at this crucial time. So where are the N-Power beneficiaries? Are they being co-opted so that you work? It's not a matter of just sitting at home and say, I'm on the list of N-Power beneficiaries, pay me for doing nothing.
Well, I think that is what the ministry will have to sit down, go back to the drawing board to look at, how to quickly engage those they have been paying. They could be also a very good service, especially in the areas of the distribution of the goods from the humanitarian services. But within the Federal Capital Territory, definitely, even our youth corps are not left out. We know the Federal Capital Territory now empower the youth corps to start, doing our own mask. So we are waiting, producing the mask now, but we are waiting for NAFDAC certification. So that also gives gainful employment. That is a way of re-engaging these youths as you give them their stipends. There are so many out there. We've engaged even the students in the University of Abuja into various, surveillance groups now to ensure they curb youth unrest. So there are so many ways you can get. Even the Code of Conduct Bureau is also part of our movement to ensure that we don't take advantage, or people don't take undue advantage of, the pandemic period as regards government resources and funds. And I think the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs will be up the game. Now that we've had this, we'll sit together also and synergize to see what we can do better to that effect. But answering Karshi now, Karshi will be served. Karshi happens to be under, the municipal area council. So in this place now, it's part of what we will start serving from tomorrow. Okay. But we will not announce the block to be served, as we have realized in Buhari that some people constituted a kind of block of over 1,000 youths to ambush just a truck. Okay. So I think we'll say it as we get there.
Okay, all right. We don't have time, actually. It's our issue now. But I would like all of you to just make your final comments. Professor Sunday or Choche, in just a few seconds.
Well, just to say that the situation has been really burdening on everybody, and the Victim Support Fund has stepped in. Within the context of its mandate, and we are out there doing what we do best, reaching the vulnerable and continuing to call upon Nigerians to work together. Everybody needs to be part of this to enable us to get on.
Thank you. Dr. Joe Anwo.
Well, as the lockdown is being relaxed, my appeal is for people to take it seriously. COVID-19 is real. Social distancing. Keep washing off our hands. If you have no business outside, please stay inside.
All right, thank you very much. The Reverend Akonji and Imam Fuad, gentlemen, have you seen this as an eye-opener to perhaps the magnitude of the social problems that has been uncovered, as it were, in terms of the many hands that are waiting to receive your palliatives, and therefore going forward, what do you think needs to be done?
Thank you very much. As a church, we are already doing it. We are going to step up our actions to do more, encourage our members to do more by contributing to that which we will give to people in need. So we will go back to the drawing board and step up. We want to let everybody know that this is a concern of everybody, so everybody should help his neighbor wherever you live. Look at your neighbors around you, people outside your gates, help them. And finally, to appeal to the government, our Honorable Minister of State, who is going back to re-strategize, and that in the re-strategizing, please let religious leaders be part of the re-strategizing, because definitely we're a good mouthpiece for government, and we meet people at the grassroots.
All right, further do you believe that religious leaders should be involved in this palliative distribution of the palliatives by government?
Whether they have any religious representation there, yet they have been working, but it's only meant for those who have television. They are the one who monitor what they do. They have to involve more religious people on this. And secondly, we want to appeal to our members, to the people that Allah has blessed, that you need to reach out so that you supplement what government is doing, and that is the only security you can even have wherever you find yourself. If you think you have and you are covering it, you don't want to help people, you need more security to defend yourself. And lastly, to the Muslim, we should know what is happening. It's just a test from Almighty Allah. It will soon go. It is not a direct thing to stop us from being what we are as Muslims.
All right, let me just say thank you to both of them in our network studios. Fuad Ademi, Imam Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society, thank you. Israel Akonji, Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, we're also grateful for your contribution this morning. Thank you indeed.
All right, and here with us, we also would like to appreciate Professor Sunday Ochoche, Executive Director of Victim Support Fund. Thank you for being around on our program. Dr. Joe Anwo, Head Stakeholder and External Relations of the Bureau of Public Enterprises. Thanks a lot for being with us on the program.
Thank you for
last
having
but
me.
not the least, the Honorable Minister of State, Federal Capital Territory, Dr. Ramatu Tijani Aliyu. Thank you for being with us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Stay safe, stay well. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kurian Umayo. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.